Yo and hello, everybody. Mike here. Welcome to another episode of Hobby Think Tank. Hey, guess what? That's Mike too.
I am Mike. Mike, I am curious, what is TBP?
Well, in light of that it's an election year, I have decided to throw my just insane amount of political capital towards Eric Those Back Pages being our next United States president in 2024. I think he can go in as an independent. He loves vintage voters. He loves modern voters. I don't think he can appeal to the masses and lead our country into a new era of greatness.
But he doesn't think a Grail card can be under $500.
Well, nobody's perfect. So what
Yeah.
are you going to do? Nobody's perfect. No, it's an election year and it's just silliness.
Weird.
Silliness
It's weird.
abounds.
It's so weird to think it's an election year. I said the other day to somebody, without thinking about it, tell me how many years it's been since the pandemic started. It's
4 years.
4 years. It feels like 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
It's wild how fast it's happened.
Time flies. That's so in the rearview mirror, it feels like now.
Yes, it's long gone. And even stranger is that January's almost over.
It is. And it's funny how I look forward. Like there's a lot of things on my calendar. I try to have a busy calendar so I have things to look forward to. That kind of gets me through the days, and gets me excited about stuff. I'm looking forward to the National. I'm looking forward to Strongsville. And I'm really looking forward to February 5th.
Oh, what is February 5th? Wait, February 4th, though.
February 4th, that day too. I'm looking forward to February 5th because you'll be gone. No, I'm just kidding. February 4th, you're coming to visit me. You're coming here to the card room and going to hang out.
Yeah, get to go through the beast. You told me that you'd send me home with at least 50 cards of my choice, so I'm excited.
That's what everybody gets when they come see the beast. Actually, I usually give people 100, so sorry.
Man, I'm getting ripped off.
I just don't like you as much. But no, I'm excited you're coming. There's, for me in the hobby, there's 2 great joys. We're going to talk about one here in a minute. The other joy, one of them is having people over and just sharing, and telling stories and showing cards and talking. I have a whole Diamond King's wing ready for you. I'm getting it ready for your arrival.
Nice.
And super excited about it. You may walk out of here with a few signed Diamond Kings. That's because I have some dupes.
All right. Deal.
You heard me say it on camera. I'm like stuck to it now.
Yep. I'm going to snag a recording of this. I'm just about to send off a Mike Greenwell 89 Donruss. $15 through private signing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually delete this video so that will never be actually seen by anyone else. It'll be your word against mine.
Perfect.
And my other joy, first joy having people over, second joy is the Baseball Hall of Fame. It has literally defined how I collect for longer than a decade. It's my main focus of everything I do is Hall of Fame centric in some way or another. And so it's a huge thing for me and I love it. Do you enjoy the Hall of Fame? Do you like it as an institution?
I love it. I went in 8th grade. I've always, ever since I was a kid, loved the Hall of Fame. I've been obsessed with Hall of Fame arguments my entire life. Not only does this guy deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but will he get in, which are 2 completely different arguments. And my collection doesn't revolve as much around the Hall of Fame as yours does, but it's certainly a big, big part of my collection. And yeah, I love the institution of the Hall of Fame. It's probably the best Hall of Fame out there, certainly better than the basketball one, which is just weird.
And football lets 10 guys in every year, Yeah, it's definitely unique. It's certainly special. I consider it a special honor to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm in a small minority that don't think it's watered down, although I think certainly some people that I wouldn't vote for or think are deserving have gotten in, no question. But it's still less than 1% of the players that have ever played get in. So it's this tremendously difficult accomplishment to get elected to the Hall of Fame. And so many people poo-poo it. It's fun to argue about and have discussions about. There's going to be plenty of people that do that. I want to talk tonight, Mike. I want to bring up something that's bothered me for a long time, and I've never really known how to address my feelings about it. But I want to read something. It is the election charge to the voters. Okay. Like the Hall of Fame sends out and they say, here's how you need to think about this. And they tell each voter voting shall be based on the player's record, playing ability, integrity, sportsmanship, character, and contributions to the team or teams on which the player played. I have a few problems with that statement. Do you?
More than a few.
More than a few. Why don't you start? Because I'll go on a 30-minute diatribe, and I don't want to do that. So
it's called they call it the character clause or the morality clause. And I read that. When I read that, I hear character on the field with the team. The writers who vote for the players to go into the Hall of Fame apply it broadly. They say he was a bad guy off the field. He did these things. And everybody has different sets of morals. And nobody has defined what these need to be. So if somebody is a wife beater, I think most people could agree that that is a bad thing. But what else is bad? And what else should exclude somebody from the Hall of Fame? There's no definition. It's just up to the writers to say, I think this guy had bad character in post-career even, and he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the ambiguity of that statement, I think, is intentionally vague to kind of leave it up to the decision of each writer to decide what crosses the line and what's okay, and that also, as you're, I think, trying to point out, leaves a lot of people, drawing a line in the sand that maybe most people wouldn't, or some of us wouldn't, or whatever. I think, and what I want to think tank is, I think it's time to remove the character clause from the voter guidelines, I guess, voting guidelines. That's probably the best way to put it. If I was president of the Baseball Hall of Fame, that would be the first thing I would advocate for, is removing that clause. I'd remove that one word. All the rest of it makes sense to me, quite frankly. Playing record, based on the player's record, playing ability, integrity. That's it. That's another one. That's ambiguous.
That is another very ambiguous.
Okay, that is slippery slope, right? Sportsmanship could be also, that's also very subjective, right? And contributions to the team on which the player played. So we've got these gray areas. You got playing record, pretty objective, right? Were they good or bad? Did they have 3,000 hits or not? Or whatever milestone you deem appropriately worthy of getting a vote.
Still plenty to argue over with playing record, though.
Okay.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
You're saying it's subjective, and it is, but it would still leave us tons to say. I think Mauer deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and you to say he doesn't. So it's not like we'd be taking away Hall of Fame arguments, which I love. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I do think Mauer should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm surprised he got in first ballot.
Yeah, I was a little bit too.
Which, that's another whole nother thing. That's ridiculous. Who cares? Get in, you get in, right?
Yep.
There's this unspoken inner circle of first ballot guys that kind of think they're. I mean, it took Joe DiMaggio 4 ballots to get in.
Yeah, but wasn't his first one while he was still playing?
I don't think so, but maybe. That's an interesting. I didn't know that. If that's true, I did not know that. But it still took Joe DiMaggio 4 ballots.
Yeah, different time.
a different time. The voters are different now. They're way more sabermetric focused, in terms of playing record and looking at all kinds of different statistics that, from a traditionalist like I am, home runs, RBIs, hits, runs. Let's stick to the basics. I do like the advanced metrics stuff, but I also like the eye test too. So I would say I kind of want all of it. I want to see all of it, and it should all tell a picture of worthy, not worthy. I'm a big believer in, like, if it was up to me, on field, inside the ballpark, that all matters.
Yep.
Right? Outside of the ballpark does not matter. Should not matter. Should not come into play at all. And maybe that's even a little bit too large of a scope to allow for subjectiveness to creep into the process. I mean, playing record, I think playing ability. I think a lot of these guys are voting for players they probably didn't see but a handful of their games, would be my argument, first of all.
Oh boy, now we're getting into a whole different topic. A lot of these writers don't even follow baseball anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And they certainly don't watch I mean, a guy I'll give you an example. Michael Young, who I watched every game, as a Rangers fan. He was a lifelong Ranger, played his last couple seasons, bouncing around a little bit, Phillies, Dodgers, but Ranger Hall of Famer, like, no question, leads the team in many statistical categories, lifetime, better than Pudge, better than, guys that are in the Hall of Fame, and was off after one ballot, right?
Yeah.
And that nobody saw him. We went to 2 World Series with him. So in all fairness, more people probably saw him play in that environment than on a day-to-day basis. I saw him every day. I saw him sacrifice for the team to move positions multiple times as different players were brought in. And he went from second base to shortstop to third to first. He played wherever they needed him, wherever the team needed him. He had 7 200 hit seasons. That's more than a lot of Hall of Famers with 3,000 hits, and
he finished his career at 300.
Yeah, he batted 300 for his career. Yeah, are you looking at his Baseball Reference? I think I'm right with 7 200 hit seasons. Close, maybe
6. Yeah, you're close.
But that's a lot.
It is.
How many did Ichiro have? Pull that up. I'm very curious.
So, what do you think Michael Young should be in the Hall of Fame?
Wow.
10 for Ichiro.
Okay, that's a lot. That's
10 in a row.
That's a big deal. That's a big difference, actually. I don't know. I just don't like that he was completely ignored as a candidate. Let's take Michael Young versus Chase Utley, who got 30% of the vote or whatever. Or Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy Rollins won an MVP, no doubt. But is Michael Young... Again, you can do that all day, which is actually part of the fun of the Hall of Fame debate, right? Is the comparative analytics, the comparing careers, etc. But we're getting away from our think tank idea, and that's I'm partly to blame for that. Do you think morals should play anything into the decision of a writer in their decision on who to vote for?
I asked my wife this a couple of hours ago because, knowing that we were going to be covering this topic, I said, hey, and she's not a big sports fan. She likes to sit down and watch sports with me, but doesn't follow anything. And I said, do you think the Baseball Hall of Fame should have a morals clause? And she immediately said, yes. And I said, what does that mean? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And I said, who defines the morals? And she's like, oh, I don't know. Shouldn't Major League Baseball? I said, well, that's kind of a problem, because they just say character should be included in the writer's decisions. And she's like, "Oh, I don't know about that. It's such a slippery slope."
It is indeed. Um,
You can keep guys out for accusations,
right.
and accusations are. Well, we don't need to get into that, but uh, I don't know. It's just if it were me, I would want to define that. And with Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe, they were banned by baseball, and baseball said you cannot get in the Hall of Fame, and that would take it out of the writer's hands. And if baseball said we don't want Omar Vizquel in the Hall of Fame, then they would need to ban him from baseball. Kurt Schilling, uh, steroid guys is a whole nother topic. And I think that would be one way to do it, but it would need to, like, how does baseball decide that? That's another thing.
Yeah. To me, the case of Gary Sheffield is a fascinating one. He was in the Mitchell Report. He was affiliated with Balco, which of course is Barry Bonds' affiliation as well. And he had an interview last night. I don't know if you watched it in the kind of pregame before the Hall of Fame announcement with Harold Reynolds. It was fascinating to watch Gary Sheffield lay it all out there and basically deny emphatically that he ever took anything illegal in terms of performance enhancing drugs. Now, could he be lying? Sure, he could be lying. And that's kind of my point. How do we know about anybody?
I thought he had one time acknowledged putting the cream on his knee. Was that? I don't remember, but that's my memory. But Andy Pettitte did too.
Well, the quote he made was, "I've never done anything illegal." That was the question, the specific question asked to him. Was the cream illegal at the time, or a banned substance in baseball? Those are all, again, you're dealing with an era of baseball where so much was not clearly enforced, for sure, defined. I mean, remember McGuire got found out because he had Andro in his locker on a shelf.
Yeah.
I mean, if that bottle was turned around where nobody could see it or whatever, that particular day when that reporter saw it and started investigating, or if he was just smart enough to keep it hidden, is Mark McGuire in the Hall of Fame? I mean,
yeah, that probably was a big trigger for everything that ended up happening.
Right. It raised a lot of questions. And I had my buddy Garrett, Card Cutter on YouTube. He and I were talking about this yesterday, which is why I've been talking about this a lot the last few days, given the election and everything. And he made a great point. He says I never give him credit for his good ideas. I'm doing it now, Garrett. He made a great point about sports, baseball included, is entertainment.
Yep.
First and foremost, it is a form of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not life or death. It's not, it's entertainment. And as sacred as I consider the numbers that are so valuable in baseball and all of those things, at the end of the day, I want to be entertained when I watch a baseball game. And I remember we hearkened back to and reminisced about the summer of '98 and how amazing that was and how it just captivated all of us, as baseball fans. And even he was talking about his dad, who didn't have a rat spot. Claire, come here. He didn't care about baseball, but he was asking every day to Garrett, who hit one? Did McGuire get one? Did Sosa get? Everybody knew their names in America. It was entertaining. No one gave a crap if they were taking steroids or not, or some performance enhancing whatever. Why does that have to matter? I don't know.
I was a sophomore in college in '98, and so in September I was starting my sophomore year, and I remember just sitting in my room, my dorm room, with my dorm door open and my TV on, watching a St. Louis game. I don't remember the details, but that's how I made friends that semester. Was McGuire was up, and people started walking by, and they'd be like, "Oh, McGuire's up. Let me see." And they'd come in, and we'd start talking, and I was a brand new student. I was a transfer student, and I made baseball fan friends because everybody wanted to watch McGuire hit in the summer of '98.
And Sosa, for that matter.
Yeah.
It was a compelling storyline. And unfortunately, that's been tainted with all the talk of how they got there, right? And he brought up, if it's and this is another Garrett point, he goes, actors and actresses, to perfect their craft, go under the knife and get enhanced all the time.
Great point.
And to look prettier longer, to look thinner, to Botox, whatever. None of that's illegal, mind you. But at the time, nobody was testing. How do you know who was clean, who wasn't clean? Again, I hold these records very sacred. I'm not trying to diminish that. I think that Bonds getting the home run record probably doesn't happen if he doesn't use steroids. I acknowledge that. And yet I can also, in the same breath, say Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. And as much as I dislike that he's the Hall of Fame or home run king because of the way he achieved it, I can still acknowledge Barry Bonds' greatness as a player and what he did for the game, and how much, regardless of enhancement or not, he was still an inner circle top 5 greatest players of all time. Can those not live together? Does it have to be so black and white? No to every PED guy if they were ever even sniffed out, which I would argue then, how do you know who did and who didn't?
Yep.
Prove it. Prove that Jeter didn't. Prove that Griffey didn't. Prove that, whoever. Again, I don't think those guys did.
David Ortiz is in.
Ortiz is in.
He did it.
Bagwell's in. Piazza's in. Pudge is in. Pudge Rodriguez is in. All these guys were at least somewhat affiliated with. Pudge Rodriguez is in Canseco's book.
Yep. Guys in the 60s and 70s took greenies, and even they acknowledge now that greenies were performance-enhancing drugs. They allowed them to play every day. They gave them a lot more energy. But nobody held them out.
Yeah,
different, of course. They weren't making them stronger. They weren't making them recover from injuries faster. But who makes that line?
Yeah.
The writers do.
That's a great point. Who are we? Who are they to just eliminate an entire era of baseball? And there's people that say, well, there's people that make the argument, well, it's a museum, and those players are recognized in the museum. There's artifacts of Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire, and they are in the museum side. The Hall of Fame side, where all the plaques are, is different. They're two different things. And it is called the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. It's an and. So, but I think both, they can coexist. And I'm not for asterisks or anything like that. Just acknowledge who Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez. Those two are actually unique cases. The last two, A-Rod, and because they failed once testing, they basically snubbed their nose at it, gave MLB the middle finger and said, we're going to do it anyway, and got busted twice for Manny, however many times for Manny. Do I still consider Manny Ramirez a Hall of Famer? Yes, because once he was caught, he was punished.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're punished, isn't that supposed to be the end of it? That's the idea, right?
Yep.
Is they were punished. They missed 60 games, 100, whatever game, each time. Guys today are missing games because they get busted. Fernando Tatis, is a great example. Well, Fernando Tatis, if he turns into a great player, Hall of Fame caliber player, is that going to be held against him 20 years from now, 15 years from now?
Probably.
Yeah. It's, you know, I don't want to be the one to define morals for anyone. I'm going to make up my own mind. I'm going to have my own set of right and wrong. I do think when you get into domestic abuse type things, and those are challenging questions. Those are, none of us want to see that. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Does that mean Roberto Alomar had the accusation as well, I believe, if I remember right.
I think so.
After he was in the Hall of Fame. But Vizquel's candidacy is being held back, no question, because of that allegation. I don't know where that I stopped following that story, honestly.
There was also the allegation of him harassing a clubhouse attendant.
Right. So sleazeball, maybe. Hall of Fame player during his career. I still don't think Vizquel should get in, but look at that part, not the sleaze. Don't look at Schilling's post-career, comments, whether you agree or disagree with him, is irrelevant. Should be irrelevant.
I agree.
Completely irrelevant. He's a great case of where I think the morality goes too far. Where the
Schilling just outed Tim Wakefield and his brain cancer 3 days before Wakefield died, saying, "I know they don't want this out there, but I'm going to do it anyway." Ultimate sleazebag move. I still think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Outed him for what?
He went on his radio show and announced that Tim Wakefield had brain cancer and was dying, even though Tim Wakefield's wife asked him not to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a big move.
Huge. And said, "Yeah, I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway." But he should be in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the greatest pitchers of all time.
Yeah. I've actually done analysis where I could make an argument that Curt Schilling was better than Nolan Ryan. And in certain, you could put them together and go, okay, Schilling was better here, Ryan better here. And you could make an argument they were certainly neck and neck in terms of what they did in their careers. Schilling, of course, post-game or postseason, just amazingness, right?
Yeah.
Bloody sock and all. So that's one of those examples of just taking it too far. Barry Bonds, forget the performance-enhancing drugs. He was bad with the media, right? So writers didn't like him. Well, so what? You don't have to like me that shouldn't matter at all.
Chris Sewell and I last night on our live stream were talking about how to prevent this, and somebody in the comments suggested letting the fans be part of the vote. So you put a fan vote, and then Chris said, well, how about you make part of it be player vote too, players and coaches. So you have it be like 25% fans, 25% players and coaches, and 50% writers. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but I thought that was interesting.
That's an interesting idea. To me, I believe players, managers, coaches can define what a Hall of Fame player is better than any writer, no matter how extensive they covered the game. Claire, you're killing me. They don't do this like ever. So I'm on.
My cat never comes down here until I'm ready to start a video, and then it's meow, meow, meow.
Yeah, if I hold her, she'll be quiet. She's just.
Of course.
Yeah. What was I can't even remember what I was saying. It's terrible. Not liking a player, silly, right? Shouldn't matter.
Oh, the fan vote, coach
vote.
Yeah,
the mixed vote, but let players. You could put a criteria on it. They had to play a certain amount of time. Have enough big league time to have. If you played this one season, with the Braves, you're probably not.
Good you got to be on the ballot first of all, and to get on the ballot, you have to have 10 seasons, and there's some other criteria.
But there's some, let's say if you've ever been on the Hall of Fame ballot, you get to vote. That would be probably 100 players, right? And you'd still maybe keep it at 75%, some number that is high but achievable.
I like that
criteria. And I may do that. I may go see how many players are alive that have at least appeared on the ballot. They were deemed, their careers were deemed worthy enough to appear on the ballot.
Way more than 100.
I would think so too. But now I
many hundreds.
Wouldn't they be the best choices to determine who is worthy of Hall of Fame? Who would your peers voting you in is the biggest honor you can get. We do that with the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. It's your peers that vote. Who better to tell who has a great YouTube channel than another YouTuber who does their own content creation?
Yeah. My favorite content right now, by the way, is Mangini railing about the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he has his moments for sure. And so this is a debate that will go on as long as that morality clause is in there. It's something I don't think it should be in there. I get why people think it should. I'm not trying to say that they're wrong or there's got to be a better way. Maybe. And so that's my conclusion today. The dogs are down here playing. You can kind of see them.
Yep, I can. That's what I was laughing at earlier.
Jeez Louise, guys. They're killing me. Why don't you close us out here and we'll get going.
Yeah, let us know what you think in comments. Do you think there should be morality clause? Who should define those morals or character, integrity, things like that? Or do we just leave it up to the writers and hope that they get it right? If 75% of them, let us know in comments. Very curious. We appreciate you guys watching. Claire and
Norman, you'll get to meet them in just a few weeks. I'm
10
sure
days.
you're thrilled.
I'll be there. Can't wait.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to y'all soon. Keep collecting.
Thanks, everybody.